I've always been fascinated by what makes people fascinated with some shows and not others. Take The Sopranos and Breaking Bad. These two shows are absolute YouTube darlings. There are reviews, analyses, and deep dives out there on the most minuscule moments in these shows. But then there are shows like Sons of Anarchy that were very popular when they aired, but that don't seem to have as much of a presence on YouTube now. Most of the videos made about this series were made during its run and right after it ended. So I'd like to give it the due diligence I think it so richly deserves, because this show is good TV. It's fucking great TV, and I'll tell you why. Oh, but don't worry, there's some dumb shit in it too, and we're gonna talk about that too. The first part of this video will be a recommendation to people who haven't seen it, and will contain no major spoilers. The second part will be an actual review of the series with spoilers for the entire series. I'll warn you when that happens. So put on your cut, kiss your old lady goodbye, hop on your bike, and let's meet at the clubhouse. We're taking a vote tonight, and it has to be unanimous. This is my review of one of the greatest shows I have ever watched, Sons of Anarchy. Sons of Anarchy is a show about bikers called the Sons of Anarchy. It aired on FX from 2008 to 2014 and was created by Kurt Sutter, who also played Otto. Sons falls into the category of crime drama, a genre that has produced some of the most beloved shows in the history of television. And this one is better than most of them. Even these two, if you want my honest opinion. To start this off, I'll tell you the two biggest plot devices in the show that I just can't get enough of. Secrets and lies. This show, from beginning to end, is full of characters who lie to each other or keep important info from each other, and moments where a person discovers the truth minutes before it's too late. And these things often lead to devastating consequences. Sometimes the show will even keep a secret from the viewer until the last minute, and then your head will explode. But these secrets and lies are so well written, and some of them are so long-lasting, that it's plain to see that these writers really knew how to use them. Critics often cite the main themes of the show as brotherhood, betrayal, and redemption, and these are all very big in this show. But the secrets and lies really move everything. And I promise that by the end of the show, there is not one secret left unturned. Sons of Anarchy has incredible flow. The entire series feels like one cohesive plot with many moving parts. Each season sets up what happens in the next. The seasons in the show are not always consistent though, with Season 3 being my least favorite. However, even this season has its moments, like the ending. My god. Also, the final season is the best one, which is something every series should aspire to claim. Sons has incredible character development, but it sets itself apart in the direction in which the main character, Jax Teller, develops. When the show starts, Jax is the vice president of the Sam Crow Charter of the Sons. Like the rest of the members, he's an outlaw, a biker engaged in organized crime. But one day he finds his father's journal. His father was one of the founders of the Sons. But this journal is full of his father's personal doubts about where the club was headed. He was against gun running, which is the club's main source of income, and the direction the club president, Clay Morrow, has the Sons facing. And so two battles begin for the rest of the series. The battle to decide the fate of the club, and the battle for Jax Teller's soul. Jax is so well written, he should be example A in how to write a complex character for long-term storytelling. He has basic biker instincts, he's quick to throw a punch, loves a good fight, and isn't afraid to draw his piece or use it. But he's also a schemer and a criminal mastermind. He is constantly finding ways out of the worst possible situations and playing his enemies against each other. Some of the shit he pulls in this show is insane. As the show goes on, you will see him face bigger and bigger hurdles in his attempts to be a good person. But unlike a lot of other characters like this, Jax never becomes content with doing evil. He is constantly, genuinely seeking redemption. He's a person trying to be a good person, but continually failing or coming up short, and the reason for this is not for lack of trying. In fact, as you watch the show, you could argue that Jax keeps falling back into the same patterns due to the actions of others. The most important figures in Jax's life are his love interest Tara and his mother Gemma, played by Katie Sagal, Kurt Sutter's real-life wife. You know, Peg Bundy. Gemma is a lot of people's favorite character on the show, and for good reason. Gemma is the matriarch of the Sons, and family is the most important thing to her. However, she often does things that don't bode well for her family. Gemma tries to find redemption at certain points in the show too, but her intentions and the actual results of her actions are usually polar opposites, and so she carries a lot of irony and hypocrisy with her. I really like the fact that despite them both being fucked up and far from normal, the writers didn't give Jax and Gemma some kind of Oedipal thing. They could have easily gone the Tony and Livia Soprano route, or the Jimmy and Jillian Darmody route. The writers passed that low-hanging fruit in favor of some riper stuff. There's also Clay Morrow, Jax's stepfather and the president of the club. Clay is absolutely underhanded, breaking all the rules of the club that he himself helped make. He is arguably the main villain of the show, although this isn't the case in every season, and he only takes center stage as the big bad in one season. Clay represents the thing that Jax is fighting not to become, but also the thing that he feels himself inevitably becoming. There are many other characters I love, and some not so much. But something I love about all the characters is that nearly all of them stick around for the entire series. If you see the club exchange dialogue with one guy in the first season, he's gonna be back. Almost every character in the show hangs around until they die. A couple other things as far as recommendations. I love that when the club makes a decision, they vote on it. I don't know much about motorcycle clubs, so if this is true, then it's interesting that a criminal organization operates democratically. This is also a show where the actions the criminals take directly affect their loved ones. Women and children do get hurt in this show from time to time. This show is wildly violent, which is especially shocking for a non-HBO show. But it's FX, so they still can't say fuck, which is pretty funny. The show also has some moments that are really cheesy, but these are actually fun to watch sometimes. The series also has one of the all-time great TV endings. This is not like most shows that hit their crescendo in the middle. This one hits it in the home stretch. The biggest negative I think can be said about the show is that it occasionally has this problem where certain characters do make really fucking dumb decisions. But that's getting into spoiler territory, so that's all I can say without spoilers. Here's your warning. Go watch all 7 seasons, then come back and see me. Here's the actual review. Season 1 of Sons of Anarchy is great. The debut starts with Jax finding his father's journal, which he spends the entire rest of the series learning to understand. The first half of Season 1 does what a show is supposed to. It introduces you to the world of the show. The first 5 or so episodes are mostly episodic, and show the MC's role in charming, their relations with other gangs, their business arrangements, and how their club is run. I like that this season always keeps Abel on the respirator in the back of your mind. Then, something interesting happens. The small things that were sitting in the background leap forward. Cone finally makes a move on Tara and Jax kills him. This is a huge moment for Jax. He just killed a man not in self-defense for the first time. Then him and Tara fuck just mere feet away from the bloody corpse. Remember those cheesy moments I mentioned? Yeah. Stahl rises to become the main villain of this season, a role she would resume in the 3rd season. And she may be the best villain in the show. She's deliciously evil and manages to consistently match wits against the Sons. Then comes the moment that, for me, elevated this show from good to great. The first moment in the show that made everyone go, oh fuck. The killing of Opie's wife, Donna. All she ever wanted Opie to do was leave the club, he stayed to support their family, and it ended up killing her. Her death was instigated by Stahl in her first of many absolutely heinous acts, but carried out by the paranoid Clay, with Tig, behind the club's back in the first moment where his underhanded bullshit backfired and got an innocent person killed. The season ends with Jax and Clay visibly causing a rift in the club, which only makes us viewers want more. Season 2 is awesome. As a matter of fact, I think it's the best of the first 4 seasons. Sam Crow starts the season in bad shape, and it gets increasingly worse as the divide between Jax and Clay deepens. While this is happening, Zabel becomes the main villain of the season. He's both cunning and brutal, and gets at Sam Crow in so many different ways that there was a point where I began to wonder how these guys were ever going to outsmart him. He's also the only bad guy in the entire show that I think gets away alive by the show's end. That sure never happens again. He's also defeated by his own plan. Gemma's gang rape actually backfires. He thought doing that would divide the sons, but instead her telling them at the right moment brings them together long enough to stand against him. But the greatest revelation in Season 2 is Opie finding out what actually happened to his wife, which is also an enormous moment for one of the show's best characters, Tig. We'll be talking more on him later. Opie forgives his brothers for something unforgivable. He even spares Stahl, though he gets his balls back on that one later on. But Season 2 does have a season finale that I'm not as fond of, because it kicks off my least favorite storyline in the series, Abel's kidnapping. Also, what the fuck, they killed off Half-Sack, and they never replace him with a prospect quite as good, though Stahl framing Gemma was pretty great. Season 3 is my least favorite season of the show. The first half of the season isn't bad, especially with Gemma on the lam. Jax also makes it very clear to Tara that being with him will destroy her, which is something that definitely comes back to haunt them later on. Also, Hale dies. I liked Hale and didn't expect him to die this soon in the show. I thought he was going to stick around with a love-hate relationship with Sam Crow, culminating in some event that makes him try to crucify them at the end of the show. But nope, he's definitely my favorite local cop in the series, and I don't think his replacements are as good. The second half of Season 3 is where things drag. I just did not like the Belfast storyline. It's convoluted and is the only part of the show that's kinda boring. I do like what we find out about JT, and those letters do put Season 4 in motion. I really like that Jax lets Abel go. As with Tara, he fears that his violent life will negatively impact his son. The minute he sees his son with a chance to escape, he lets it happen. It's only later, when Jimmy O kills Abel's foster parents and re-kidnaps him, that Jax is forced to save his son again and return things to normal. The fact that these two innocent people were killed by proxy due to the club's involvement with the IRA only further weighs on Jax's mind. The poor guy just can't win. It's at this point that I like to say that I don't like Tara. For being a doctor, she makes unfucking believably stupid decisions in this show. And how she handles getting kidnapped is the dumbest of them all. She mortally wounds Salazar's girlfriend. Then, when she has a gun in her hand, she stays behind to help Salazar, her kidnapper, save his girlfriend, also her kidnapper. Then, when she can't save her, she goes up to Salazar, unarmed, while he has a gun, and basically tells him, "I killed your girlfriend." I honestly thought this was the end of Tara, and it should have been. Because what in the fuck was she thinking? What outcome was she anticipating? Here's how this should have happened. Your girlfriend is upstairs bleeding to death. Go upstairs if you don't believe me. Drop your gun and I'll help you save her. Then, when he drops the gun, put one in his fucking head and leave. Sound harsh? Well, don't go around fucking kidnapping people. But I will say this. Season 3 does have an absolutely magnificent ending. In a show full of secrets and lies, the fact that they sprung a lie this good on the audience is pretty amazing. The way that Jax outsmarted Stahl and got the club what they needed, then killing her and Jimmy O, was brilliant. My only regret is that they killed Stahl this early, because there is no villain in the entire rest of the show that quite fills her shoes. In Season 4, things start to get better, though they do replace Stahl, Hale, and Half-Sack with these guys, and none of them are quite as good. Especially this guy. This dude sucks. He is the most pointless fucking character, I swear. I don't even remember his name. Clay returns to a villainous role in this season, and this is definitely the one where he's the main antagonist. He gets the club involved with the cartel, which starts a chain reaction that fucks everything up for the rest of the series. And that's the least bad thing he does. Clay loses his fucking mind in this season. He kills Piney, tries to kill Tara, turns on Gemma. Clay's storyline in this season rocks. What doesn't rock is the other big storyline in Season 4. I'm talking about Juice flipping. Hey, remember those dumb moments we keep bringing up from time to time? This is the worst one. I still can't wrap my head around it. So the ATF blackmails Juice by saying if he doesn't turn on the club, they'll leak to the club that Juice's dad was black. A fact that Juice, who never knew his father, wasn't even aware of until this moment. And this actually gets Juice to flip. It would have taken maybe 40 seconds of thought to realize how fucking stupid this threat was. There was no way the club would have given Juice a mayhem vote for not knowing his dad was black. A mayhem vote wouldn't have even crossed anyone's mind. These guys are never once shown killing their own brothers on a technicality. The worst that could happen is they vote to have him kicked out, his tats covered up, etc., but even that probably wouldn't have passed. The only people in the club at this point who maybe would have voted Juice out are Clay and Piney because they made the club, they made the rules, but he would have stayed and they maybe even could have gotten a petition to change the rule based on this unique case, which happens at the end of the series anyway. But hey, you know who the club does kill? Rats. People who turn on their brothers. Those guys get the Reaper. Not to mention sons who kill other club members and do everything else Juice goes on to do. Juice knows all of this, so it doesn't make any fucking sense for him to think that the club finding out about his dad would be worse than him ratting them out to the law. And suddenly he's an outcast for the rest of the show because of it. Season 4 is my second least favorite season, but it's definitely not boring. I think this season is the cheesiest the show gets, but the highlight is definitely Jax and Clay's relationship finally exploding, which has been building the entire show up until this point. This really was Clay's big bad season, and it's great for that. There are people out there who don't particularly like Season 5 of Sons of Anarchy, and those people are stupid. Because Season 5 is one of the best seasons of the show, and the one that returns the show to the consistency of the first 2 seasons. It also plants the seeds that grow into full trees in the last 2 seasons. We're introduced to Nero, who becomes Jax's father figure, and from this season to the end of the show, I fucking love the relationship these two have. There is definitely something unspoken that they didn't know they were looking for that they found in each other, and all the ups and downs between them never completely breaks this bond. Gemma gets in the car accident with Abel and Thomas that creates a permanent rift between her and Tara. After getting closer in the previous seasons, this is the beginning of their dissolution as a family. We also meet Damon Pope, who is my favorite gangster antagonist on this show. Smart, brutal, and business-minded, Pope is the most ironically sadistic villain in the series. But he gets outsmarted by the criminal mastermind that is Jax Teller. This is also the season where Jax's battle for his soul becomes a losing one, and the event that changes him forever is the death of Opie. The change is noticeable. He's a little more vengeance, a little less humanity after this. And this scene is very emotional. I've met people who said the first time they ever cried while watching a TV show was when Opie died. And his murder of the guard who set it up is the first murder Jax commits in which he takes genuine cathartic pleasure in killing someone. But none of these are my favorite part of Season 5, which happens to be Tig. I love Tig. He flies off the handle, makes rash decisions without thinking, and has done some bad things to people who didn't always deserve them. And yet, he regrets every single innocent life he's destroyed, and is burdened with guilt. In this season, his shoot-first attitude finally comes back on him when Pope burns his daughter alive in front of him, as revenge for Tig killing his daughter in a failed hit. This event is what leads to Opie's death, which leads to Jax's hatred taking over, which leads to Jax being willing to give Tig up to be tortured and killed by Pope. But then, despite the fact that Tig caused Opie's death, despite the fact that Tig maybe even deserves to answer for his sins, this new Jax still has enough of the old one in him to put away his anger at Tig and lets his brother take revenge for his daughter's death, and then uses the opportunity to destroy his mortal nemesis, Clay. This season fucking killed it. Except for Nero's sister killing herself, that was stupid. And Tara makes another one of those really smart decisions she's known for making. Great choice giving a metal object to the psycho who turned a 6-year prison sentence into the fucking death penalty after reading his file. Idiot. Season 6 fucking rocks. I love that a school shooting of all things brings the heat on Sam Crow this time. Galen and the IRA in this season was such a good storyline, it almost made up for the IRA plot in Season 3. The clubhouse getting blown up was, to me, one of the all-time great oh fuck moments in a show that has hundreds of them. And the way Jax outsmarts them while also getting his long overdue revenge on Clay had me cheering at the TV. I actually liked Patterson. I like that she wants the bad guys put away simply because they're the bad guys. However, Torek was wasted potential. This guy had great build-up, and they set him up to be the next ultra-demented Stahl-type villain, and then he dies in like the 4th episode. Jax losing his internal battle kicks into overdrive in this episode. Tig kills one of the Iranians in probably the greatest kill of the entire series, creating a situation with them. At the same time, August Marks tells Jax he still wants Tig dead for Pope's honor. Jax sees Tig as a liability and pulls a Clay move. He gives up a brother to be killed by Marks, who then spares him. It was a test. Tig never seems to completely connect the dots on this, but I think he acknowledges that he should be less impulsive, which he becomes, and Jax acknowledges that Tig learned his lesson and forgives him. Tara has quite a story arc in this episode. So she starts off in jail, and the show tries to convince us that it makes her hard. And I'm sorry, hard Tara had me cracking up this entire season. I know she should be after all that's happened to her, but I don't know, I just don't believe her. She still wants to leave Charming to keep her son safe, but Gemma is still keeping her there. So she concocts this fake pregnancy plan, fakes Gemma assaulting her and causing a miscarriage. Jax turns on his mother, but then finds out the truth. Tara fears for her life and almost rats the club out for immunity, but Jax already got the case thrown out. But in the end, Jax spares Tara and decides to take the ears so she can leave Charming and save his sons. Gemma manages to forgive Tara, which is very, very big of her. But then, because of incorrect information passed down by this gossip queen, Gemma is made to believe that Tara did take a deal. And after everything Tara did to her this season, this is the last straw. In an act of unbridled rage, she murders Tara with a meat fork. I think this was the oh fuck moment to end all oh fuck moments, because we had no idea what would happen next, but one thing was for sure. This event would finally destroy Jax for good. Season 7 of Sons of Anarchy does that rarest of things among final seasons of long-running TV shows. It is, undisputedly, the greatest season of the show. Things end the way I think they were always meant to, with Gemma as the final big bad. Gemma blames Lynn and the Triads for Tara's death, and the opening episode of this season has Jax torturing and killing the man he thinks actually did it. He then lures Lynn into his trust, which then turns into a destructive war with Lynn that turns into a war with Marks and leads to the deaths of Bobby, Jury, and a bunch of innocent hookers and Johns. We've seen Clay lose it, we've seen Tara lose it, we've seen Gemma lose it, and now Jax has finally lost it. There is a hole in Jax's heart that he only knows how to fill with vengeance, but there is still some humanity underneath this. The battle is almost lost, but not entirely. By the end of this season, Gemma's and Juice's lies have caused immeasurable pain and death. The burden of her evil has even landed on Abel, who has endured more than enough the entire show before this, but who resents her and acts out when he knows the truth. Jax begins to see in his son the thing that he and Tara feared most. Things I love this season. Jax telling Abel about Wendy, Tig winding up with Venus, Juice taking it in the ass from Marilyn Manson. I also love Chibs in this season. Somewhere along the line, he became the most loyal fucking guy, and he deserved that president patch. Every scene he's in with the new chief of police is also fucking hilarious. The moment where Jax learns what Gemma has done is one anyone could have seen coming, but it's still absolutely heart-wrenching. And so is the fallout. The final, haunting scene between Gemma and Nero, Gemma's goodbye to Chucky, Jax crying on Nero's shoulder, but Jax does the right thing in attempting to fix everything he fucked up due to the lie, including confessing to the other charters that he was wrong about Jury ratting them out, knowing that they will vote for mayhem. He also does the right thing in killing Gemma. I mean, what else was he gonna do? And Gemma understands because, well, she's accepted the fact that it's what she deserves and it's who her son is. Jax kills his own mother and seems to have lost the fight for his soul. Until the final episode. Within the first 5 minutes of the episode, we come to understand that this is the last day of Jax Teller's life. He requests a mayhem vote out of a mournful Chibs. He tells Nero his children must grow up resenting him, then says goodbye to his children one final time. I'm not gonna cry. He burns all of his father's writings and his own, knowing it's better if his kids have absolutely no record of his reasonings on why he did the things he did. He kills the only people left who could hurt the club in broad daylight. The club votes mayhem, but they let him go out on his own terms. He says goodbye to his brothers, finally makes his peace with his father. There's something in my eye, don't look at me! And he goes out the way every biker wishes they could, riding a motorcycle wild and free at top speed down a stretch of road. Jax Teller sacrifices himself in order to save the lives of his children and his brothers, and anyone else he could have possibly gone on to hurt. Jax Teller successfully wins the battle for his soul. Here are a couple of other thoughts on the show that don't fit perfectly into any one particular season. I don't like it when dramas are self-aware of other roles their actors have played. Sons of Anarchy does this occasionally. The worst one is when Jax asks Luann, "You thought I was gonna Adriana you?" And Adriana is on the show? Like, are you serious? Stop that. Later on, Nero says something about putting Wendy in the trunk and she says, "Wouldn't be the first time." Are you fucking... I love Jax Teller. He's one of the greatest TV protagonists ever. If you need any more proof of how charming, see what I did there, Jax's character is, Charlie Hunnam developed separation anxiety from playing him after the show ended. I'm dead serious. Read about it. He hung around the old sets by himself and shit. The guy's from Britain but has this weird transatlantic Cary Grant accent from playing Jax Teller. It warms my heart when someone is this attached to a character they bring to life. I like the fact that I rooted for Jax the entire show. He's not repugnant in the same way that a lot of other TV criminal protagonists are. He regrets what he does. Almost every time he falls into a hole that he has to climb out of, it's due to the actions of another character. And even at his worst, Jax never becomes Clay. That was low-hanging fruit that the writers looked at and said, "Hey, we've seen this in so many shows before, let's grow our own fruit." He makes Clay moves, that's for sure, but he never becomes as bad. However, he does become Opie. I think by the series' end, he truly feels what Opie was feeling. I love the irony and hypocrisy that exists in Gemma at all times. This woman spends the entire show trying to hold her family together, and she ends up destroying her family. The same impulsive, rage-filled woman who couldn't shoot her rapist because she heard him talking to his son could stab her daughter-in-law in the head with a meat fork without even confronting her about what she thought she did. This kind of stuff is why people love Gemma. You could devote an entire video to what's going on in her head. Hey, Vile Eye, do an Analyzing Evil on Gemma Teller next. I know I spoke a lot about Tig, but I'd like to bring up again that this guy is my favorite supporting character. He's impulsive and makes rash decisions that come back to haunt him in the club. He's willing to do things that even other club members wouldn't. But you can tell after a certain amount of time that this guy hates himself. He was raped as a child by his father. He says it anecdotally, but I don't think he was kidding. His daughter was murdered right in front of him. He's a pervert who may or may not be a necrophile and may or may not have shown his dick to farm animals. But his story arc feels complete when he lets genuine love into his life in the form of Venus, someone who was also raped as a child and who also has baggage. I think there are some things to be said about JT. He's dead before the series begins, and yet he holds so much power over the lives of the characters from beyond the grave. I may as well also bring up the one supernatural element in the show, the homeless woman. I love the idea that a woman who died in a car crash caused by JT now haunts his wife and son. She's definitely benevolent though. And they let you know something is strange about her in little doses. Like in Season 3 when she's all the way in Belfast. That was the first big clue that something strange is going on. I also like at the end, Jax asks her, "Who are you?" and doesn't get an answer, and it doesn't bother him too much. He knows she's supernatural at this point, but also knows that he's gonna die before the sun goes down, so it makes sense that his response is just, "Okay, she's cool." So overall, what do I think of Sons of Anarchy? You already know that I love it. It has great writing, even when it doesn't. Despite the dumb moments I've talked about, overall this show feels like one enormous cohesive story. Look at the prose, a story that feels complete, complex characters who each have a dedicated arc, a protagonist to root for, an actual good ending. Oh, you and I are gonna fucking talk one of these days, Tony. And the best use of secrets and lies I've ever seen in a show. So I'll end this by saying, it's no secret that I love and respect this show, and I'd be lying if I said that this wasn't good TV. Yo guys, thank you for watching my most ambitious video yet. I wish people on YouTube had more to say about Sons of Anarchy. I wish it had more deep dives. If you have something to say about the show, give me your thoughts in the comments. Or even better, make a video. Give it some credit. And like, subscribe, and click that Patreon link, baby. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my rendition of the theme song from Sons of Anarchy. Riding through this world, all alone. God takes your soul, you're on your own. The crow flies straight, a perfect line. On the devil's bed, till you die. Gotta look this world in the eye. Thank you, thank you.